Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? It is currently 10:29 p.m. on this foggy December evening. Happy December 1st. It is currently 46 degrees outside. And I'm driving towards the midnight hour. How are you guys doing today? I have had a really good day today, but I would say I've had a very long day today. So last night, my attempt was to go to bed early so that I could get up this morning and get my car in and things like that. Because it had to be there between 8 and 9, but they said the earlier that I got it there, the quicker that it would be worked on. And so, I wanted to get up like at 7:20 so I could get ready and then get out of the door and get it there like right at 8 o'clock. Plus Melissa was picking me up from there, and she had a work meeting at like 8:55 that she had to be on, like a Zoom call at home, and so, or like something like that, or she had to be logged in by 8:55, and so she had to get me and get back home by 8:55, so I couldn't be late for it, right? And so I did. I was very proud of myself. I got up exactly what I wanted to this morning and got out the door and all that kind of stuff. And but I stayed up a little bit too late last night. I didn't stay up too late. I was in bed by like 1:32. I don't even remember what time I ended up vlogging last night or getting done vlogging. I think I only listened to my audiobook for like 40 minutes or something. But then I just like laid there in bed and I couldn't fall asleep, and I was just like tossing and turning, and I think it's just because my schedule is so way off. So, but yeah, anyway, I got up today. I was tired though when I came home, so I got some stuff done around the house, and I started watching Dragula. I watched like the first half of this week's episode, or maybe like the first third of this week's episode. And then I was like, it's getting late in the morning, and they said it would be done by like early afternoon. So I was like, if I'm gonna lay down and take a nap, I should probably go take a nap, go back to sleep. If I'm gonna go back to sleep or take a nap, I should probably do so right now. And so I got the dogs and we went upstairs, and that was at like 10:30, and 10:30 or 11. And I slept until like, I set my alarm for I think like 12:30 or 1, sometime in there. And I think like 12:30 and 12:40 I had 2 alarms set. And I got up and I hadn't received any messages from them. So I just like set the alarm for like another hour and went back to bed. And so finally, I was so tired, and I got up and I was like, whatever. And Melissa finally called. I hadn't heard from the place at all. Melissa called me at like 3 o'clock, and she was like, because she had a thing that she had to do for one of her dog rescue things tonight at 5:30, and she's like, I'm gonna leave the house at 5:30, can I just like go and get, take you on the way? And I was like, I haven't even heard from them yet, which is weird. So I called there, and the girl that's like the office manager, she's super nice. She was like, I've been trying to get a hold of you. And I said, really? And she's like, yeah, a couple hours ago, I called and left a voicemail message. I have no voicemail message. I don't know, it's the weirdest thing. And I said, well, what number do you have? And she read me back my number, and it was my number. And I was like, this is so bizarre. She was like, well, anyway, she's like, your car's been done for a while. I was like, okay. So, but I said, what time do you guys close? And she said 5 o'clock. So I called Melissa, and Melissa's like, well, I'll just come and get you right now. She was like, it'll just be more convenient for me that way. And she was like, anyway. So she came and got me and took me to go get my car, which was really, really nice. I really appreciate it. And Melissa's so sweet. So this morning, the Starbucks by me that I said is closing, I was told that it was closing. Well, I found out today at another Starbucks that it's actually reopening on December 6th. So yeah, so there's that. And because when I went to another Starbucks today, I actually went to Starbucks, and this is like the first time I've gotten Starbucks coffee in forever. and it's that Pike Place, and I don't love it, and I only drank like half of it. You know, with all the different kinds of coffee that they have there, like Pike Place and that Verona, and or that, however you pronounce it, and the Holiday Blend and all that stuff, it's like crazy to me they always go with the Pike Place, which I think is like the worst of their coffee flavors. Like, they've got gingerbread, they've got this, they've got that. It's like, why do they always... I mean, any Starbucks that you go to, that's probably, I mean, they're told to do that, right? But, like, I don't understand it. If you're a barista, can you tell me if you know why that is? Like, is the Pike Place just the most normal of all? I guess it must be. Not my favorite. I love the Dunkin' Donuts coffee. But I went to Starbucks today to do a review. I did a review of the Santa Claus Frappuccino that Sarah had sent me. So, Sarah, if you're out there, thank you. She actually sent me a message on Instagram, and she was like, I'm so glad that you liked it. And I was like, thank you so much for the recommendation. I said, thanks for the rec, which I said, thanks for the rev, and then I put rack because it auto-corrected itself. I'm sure you guys really care about all that. So, anyway, but I had this coffee, and I just wasn't like, yesterday, my throat was itchy. Today, I feel like I've had kind of like a 48-hour cold. Today, my throat wasn't itchy, but my nose was runny today, and I just wasn't really in the mood to drink a lot of coffee, and so I don't know why, I just wasn't. And I have been drinking a lot of coffee lately, but this is a sign that I'm feeling better, because tonight, when I was coming out to vlog, I was like, oh, I want a cup of coffee. Like, I'm ready for a cup of coffee now. I kind of always am later in the evening. Oh yeah, that's last night. I drove through McDonald's and I got that cup of coffee, and then I listened to Apples Never Fall, which I listened to a little bit today too. I have less than 4 hours left. I think I have like 3 hours and 40 minutes or something like that left to listen to. And it actually just got really, really good. And so I'm like, I was calling Tanya today, and I was like, oh my God, this part of this, I was reading this part of this book to her. And so anyway, but, or I wasn't reading it to her, I was telling her the part that I was reading in the book, and or listening to in the book, and she said, she goes, oh yeah, it was like this part, it's Father's Day, and they all come over, and then the father starts telling them, like, what bad tennis players they are, and then, like, they're all going through these life-changing events that are going to be disappointing to the parents. I don't want to say what they are in case you read the book. And then, like, the son kind of like drops his, and then the daughter drops her. There's two sons and two daughters, and the one son drops his, and then the one daughter drops hers, and then it's like this, just the mother has like this medical issue happen as a result, well, not really as a result of it, but they think it is. And it's like, I feel like it's like our family back in the day, you know, when my mom and my aunt were like drinking and not getting along. But anyway, but although this one isn't, there's not, well, there actually one character in that scene is drinking quite a bit. But anyway, it was just really funny. Liam O'Riordan can like capture reality like nobody's business and make it funny. So anyway, yeah. So, and then today I also did, so when I got my car, I went and did that review, and then she had told me about the Starbucks cups that they might have been at the Target in this area called Nora here in Indianapolis, which was like 10 minutes from there, 5 or 10 minutes from there. So I was like, well, I'm just going to run over there and see if they have some of the holiday cups, which they did, and I was really happy, because I had just kind of like accepted the fact that I wasn't getting any Starbucks holiday cups, because I was like, okay, they're out of them everywhere now at this point. Because when I went to look, they didn't have them. They hadn't even gotten them yet. And so I was just kind of like I said, I had accepted the fact that I wasn't going to get any, because I thought they had got them, and then they had all sold out like that. But I went to that Target in Nora, and they had like 2 of the cups that I really wanted. And there's still like 2 cups that I want, but I didn't see them. I went to another Target too. I went to the Target in Fishers, which is like a super Target, and that means they have like a grocery store and everything in there. And they had some cups in there too. They had this one that I got, which is like the small metal cup that I was using before, and I love this cup so much. This is my first use of it. I'm so excited. This is Cake Boss coffee in here tonight, and I made raspberry truffle. So should we try it and see what I think? It smelled really, really good. It actually, when it was like brewing, it smelled exactly like a raspberry, like chocolate candy. I was like, oh my God, I love this. Which is so funny, because when I was growing up, I only like, you know, in a box of like chocolates, life is like a box of chocolates. But you know, like in a box of chocolates, does this ever happen to you, like over time, the things you used to not like become things that you love? So I only liked caramels or just plain chocolates. Milk chocolate or dark chocolate, I didn't care, but just like solid chocolates. I didn't like creams, and I didn't like nuts, and I definitely didn't like the jellies in there, like the cherry cordials and stuff like that. And now I have to tell you, like, cherry cordials are some of my like favorite candies, and I love the jellies and I love the creams so much. I can eat a box of chocolate like nobody's business. Do not give me one for Christmas, Halloween. Don't give me one for Valentine's Day, because I will sit there and literally eat the entire thing. This is so funny. So we just got a Sieves here a couple years ago. Forever it was Fannie Mae in Indiana. I haven't tried this coffee yet. It's really hot. I'm gonna let it cool down a second. But we just got a Sieves here a couple years ago in the Fashion Mall, which is by us. And the only way that I knew Sieves was Sandra Bernhard on David Letterman, like years ago. My favorite episode of her interview on David Letterman was when she sang the Taylor Dane song, "Don't Touch Me." But anyway, something about the episode, he had all these chocolate kisses everywhere. And they were like on the desk, on the floor, on the chairs and everything. And so he said something like, it smells like some kind of chocolate shop in there. And she said, or a Sieves for our friends on the West Coast. And I've always remembered that. I don't know how. I knew that interview. Like, I had that interview by heart back in the day. Like, I even sat and watched it and recorded it on a tape recorder so I could play it in my car. That's how obsessed I was with Sandra Bernhard in high school. Literally obsessed with Sandra Bernhard. I mean, I think part of why I was able to accept myself for who I was, because Sandra Bernhard was so different and weird and didn't care, and just took that weirdness and capitalized on it and fell in love with herself for being weird. And I loved that about her, you know, and I so related to that. But anyway, so I knew that whole interview. I still probably know that whole interview by heart. I just watched it like a year ago or something again. I watched all of the Sandra Bernhard interviews on David Letterman and on Johnny Carson, because I hadn't watched them in a long time. If you want to go back and watch some fun interviews, the Amy Sedaris interviews on David Letterman and Johnny Carson are fantastic too. Amy Sedaris is probably one of the most fantastic creatures that has ever walked this earth. She just is. I love her so much. You know, Amy Sedaris, that was in Strangers with Candy, David Sedaris' sister. So anyway, and if you've never read, if you want a good book, like a memoir book for the holidays, we read this actually. This was the last book, I think, that we read before Mel and I turned the book club into an all true crime book club. And the book is Holidays on Ice by David Sedaris. I think he actually has a new book out, a new holiday book out. And it's hilarious. This one scene, the first story, I think it's the first one, is where he is an elf. And can you tell I've been cooped up at home all day today? I'm like out and I'm like, oh. But anyway, the first one's where he's like an elf for Santa at the department store. And it is so hilarious, you guys. Anyway, it's not all, it's some of it like very endearing and kind of melancholy, because that's who David Sedaris is, but I love his writing anyway. Yeah, I remember Mel and I were like, we both love true crime. I can remember being on the phone talking to her, and I was like, should we make it an all true crime book club? Because that year we had read I'll Be Gone in the Dark, I can never say this. I'll Be Gone in the Dark, One Woman's Obsessive Search for the Golden State Killer by Michelle McNamara. And so we were talking about how we loved that book. I think we read another true crime book that year too. And so Mel and I were just talking about our love of true crime. And I don't remember who said it. It was either, it had to be one of us, because it was just a two-way phone call. But we were like, should we make the book club an all true crime book club? And I remember I was like, well, I think that will really alienate people that you know, because before I admitted the book club, Peter's book, it was called Peter's Book Club before. And it was like reading pulp classics and things like that. We read like My Sweet Audrina by V.C. Andrews, and there were all these books in there, that a lot of them that I had read when I was a kid. Oh, Endless Night by Richard Lehman, which Mel still has never let me live down because it's such a bad book. It was really scary the first time that I read it. I don't know what happened the last time when we read it for the book club. It was horrible. I can't remember what else we read that first year. But anyway, that April, we read I'll Be Gone in the Dark, One Woman's Obsessive Search for the Golden State Killer by Michelle McNamara, who has since passed away. So anyway, I can remember Mel said, though, who cares? It's our book club. If we want to make it all true crime, we can make it all true. I was like, I agree with you. Let's make it all true crime. It'll be fun. So anyway, that's how we became an all true crime book club. Now, I don't even remember really how I got there tonight. I was talking about sieves and all kinds of stuff. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So anyway, but Melissa is so funny. So like years ago, like 5-7 years ago, whenever sieves came around, because Melissa loves sieves, she, like, for Valentine's Day, she told Jason she wanted this, like, ridiculous Valentine's Day box. And so it's like this, like, crushed velvet, gorgeous. I mean, it's huge, you guys. It's like a huge heart, like this size. And, like, huge, okay? Like, huge heart shaped, right? And Michelle McNamara. Did you guys watch the HBO special about I'll Be Gone in the Dark about Michelle McNamara? It was so good. One Woman's Obsessive Search for the Golden State Killer. That was so good, but very sad too, because they talk about her passing in there. But anyway, Melissa and I are both obsessed with candy and sweets. We love them. So actually, they have Popcornopulous, the Christmas bags at Target, and I sent her a picture of it today. I also put it on my Instagram. And I also talked about it in my Peter Does Stuff video. But anyway, I digress. So now, every year for Valentine's Day, Melissa just, she gets online and orders what she wants for the Valentine's Day box. And then Jason drops it off, and then they fill it, because you can just, like, take in a box that you already have, and they can fill it for you with, like, all the candy. So she just picks out the chocolates that she wants. And then Jason picks it up, like, on his way home from work, and he's like, here, happy Valentine's Day. She's like, oh, thank you so much for that. I think that's hilarious. But anyway, it's so funny that my car doesn't really feel a lot different driving with new brakes. I thought it would feel like brand new, and it doesn't. But I just got an oil change, and then they, like, topped off. They were so nice. They topped off everything, and they checked this engine light that I have on, and they said that it was, like, nothing. It was just, like, something to do with my gas cap, which I'd actually taken to AutoZone a while ago, and they had said the same thing. And they checked my tire pressure, because I asked them to do that, because I had one tire that kept on going lower. And filled my tires, and they were fantastic. And I know some people are going to think this is expensive, but I said it to Tanya, and she and her husband both thought it was, like, super affordable. I got all new brakes, or brake pads and rotors, and all the labor for, it was like $6 something. It was like $640 or something. I couldn't believe it. They were so nice. I thought it would be like $1,000 or $2,000 in all honesty. I really did. So, got the brakes fixed, did all that, I went and searched for the Starbucks cups. Oh, I was gonna try this coffee. Is it cooled down a little bit? Let's see. That is so good. There's like a sweetness to it that most flavored coffees don't have. I did put one sweet and low in it, but that's not what it is. Oh, that is so good. That is like eating like a raspberry chocolate. Oh, that's delicious. You guys, I have a brand new battery in here. I think like I have 3 good batteries and one bad battery. Because I'm at what, 18 minutes and 23 seconds or something, 25 seconds. And the battery is already at the halfway mark, and I just put a brand new battery in there. I have put my new battery in the rotation, but I just don't want to throw away a battery that's still good, you know, and I'm still using. I think you can take them to Best Buy so that they'll recycle them. So I'll probably do that, but I have to figure out which one it is now. But I did, the new battery that I bought off of Amazon, I did put it into the cycle of batteries. So there you go. Now I have 4 batteries that I'm like replacing and putting in and out. It does make it easier for me while I'm filming, because if like I'm low on a battery, I know that I have like 2 batteries charging at any given time in the kitchen. I don't know, maybe that's what it is. Maybe I probably grabbed the wrong battery. I have another battery in here, but I think that's probably what happened. See, right here. Are you the new one? I don't know. I could probably look at him and tell, because like this one right here has like half of like this sticker on it is like coming off. So if I looked at him, I could probably tell which one's the newest one. I probably need to do that. Anyway, so yeah, and then I came home, and my nap with the dogs earlier today was so nice. My little puppy's dogs are so sweet. Although, God, poor Tucker has just been through it, I'll tell you. He has a hot spot on his back. We didn't even recognize it because his fur is like growing out a little bit, or has grown out a little bit. It's not like super long, but it's grown out a little bit. So last night, did I talk about this last night? I don't think I did. Last night we noticed, when was this? Well, this would have been, it would have had to have been before Alex left to go to dinner and before I left to go to my meeting or whatever in there. He wasn't home for that long, though. Or was it afterwards? I don't even remember. Anyway, Tucker has a little hot spot. It's not a big one, but it's on his back. And Boo Radley had the same thing this summer. But he's been itching at it like crazy and trying to get at it and look at it. So, thank God we have the spray that I had bought this summer. So, Alex gave in, he like cut it down, his hair down a little bit around there. So it was less irritated. And then he sprayed the stuff on it. Which that spray that I got at PetSmart or whatever, like, that is like a miracle worker. It's like a hot spot spray. It's a white bottle. I don't know what it's called. It was expensive because I bought the one that was like more expensive. Do you ever do that? Do you ever, like, if you're doing something like that, you buy the one that's more expensive because you think it's going to be better? And then he gave him like a half of a Benadryl, which that's what they had recommended with like Boo back then. Today he seems so much better. And the weirdest thing is that the hot spot has like dried up and like really started healing just like overnight. So poor little guy. But we've had him wearing that thing around the cone, the blow up cone. If you have to have your dogs be in a cone for any reason, Tanya was who told me about that. You can get it at any pet store. It just looks like a blow up inner tube, but they're real, like ours are real small for the dog. So you just you blow this thing up, and it's like a horseshoe kind of thing, like almost a whole circle. And then there's a Velcro strap on it that you put, like, you just put it around their neck and it just fits there. And both he and Boo seem to kind of like it. Boo Radley just would put his little head out like this and just sleep on it. And last night Tucker was kind of doing the same thing. He didn't seem like he minded it at all, which is so funny to me. Little guy. He's had a tough year. He seems good though, with like, I feel like the medicine and stuff is working. We just have to take him out all the time and literally every time I take him out, he like pees so hard because I think he's just, and then he'll come inside, and as soon as he's done going potty, he'll come inside and he literally drinks like half a bowl of water. And that's that Lasix, which is a diuretic. I think it just makes him thirsty all the time, you know? So we just have to keep him replenished on it, but I'm like in my head about like whether I want to say this or not. But you know, like these are the tough decisions for animals, right? So when I was talking about Tucker and his diagnosis, and I was saying these were the same medications that Pee-Pee was on, and the thing that really bothered me about that, like was really upsetting, was that I kind of knew how this all worked, because these are the medications to help his heart. But the problem with that is that when you have a dog on, like, he's on Lasix, which is the diuretic, right? And you have a dog on a diuretic, it like overworks their kidneys. So what happens is that eventually their kidneys start to fail, right? And then once the kidneys fail, then it's like, what's going to go first, the heart or the kidneys, right? With these dogs. Okay. So when I said that on there, somebody left a comment and said, And it was not nicely said either. It was rudely said. And they said, why would you ever give your dog a medicine that would end up killing him and like make his kidneys go bad? Well, you know, like, here's the difficulty with having a dog. I can remember having that conversation with our vet, and I said to her, like, you know, you're telling me that, like, because she was very honest with us from the get-go with PP, and she said, I'm going to tell you right now, we need to put him on a diuretic because it will take away the water that is surrounding, like, the heart or whatever. I don't really know how all that works, but she was like, it will give his heart a better chance of living longer. She's like, but down the road, you can't have a dog on a diuretic for years on end, because because their kidneys will overwork, and then what will happen is, just at some point, they'll go into kidney failure. And I was like, and this person did not leave a nice comment, though. They didn't say it in a nice way, but I said to our vet, I said, well, then is there a different alternative? Is there something different to put him on? And she goes, in my experience and the people that we work with, she's like, this is the best chance to give him the most comfortable, longest life as possible. And she was like, and then when it starts affecting his kidneys, we're going to have to figure out different things. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but and honestly, I don't remember how much I shared, because, you know, I feel like when you talk about pets and care and stuff, you get so criticized, and it was such a personal thing that but I do think I shared about this, that we had to change his entire food. Do you guys remember this? Like, we had to change all of his food, and we had to start buying his food from the vet, PP's food. It was very expensive, and it was specific food for dogs that were in kidney failure. And PP hated it. He hated that food. I'm already, like, I know we're going to get to the point where Tucker has to do that, right? And I'm already dreading that, because apparently, I don't know, that food must not have had any taste to it or anything, because we would put that food down and PP would just snub his nose at it. He hated it. And, I mean, we had to do so many things to trick him with that food. Put Parmesan cheese on it, put shredded cheese on it. I mean, we did so many things. Tanya gave me so many suggestions. You know, we would mix it with chicken and rice. But that was when, like, he wouldn't eat for a period of time when we switched it over. And the vet was like, I don't want him on chicken and rice forever. And so, what did I just press? I just pressed something. I don't know what I just pressed. Oh, well. Anyway, she was like, I don't want him on chicken and rice forever, which we were, because at first she was like, if he won't eat, you can give him chicken and rice. Well, then like a week went by and we had continued to give him chicken and rice, and I, you know, called the vet, and she was like, well, I don't want him on chicken and rice. You know, he needs to, like, bring him in here, and then we'll, you know, get him on this diet. And at that point, like, their teeth were so bad that they were already on wet food, and then she was like, let's just do this kidney diet. So he had to eat this food, and he hated it. And, like, as soon as we would put it down, that's why we separated the dogs originally, was because they would eat off each other's plates anyway. But then Tucker was right around the corner in the other room, like, he was in the hallway by the door, and PP would run over there and want to start eating Tucker's food, and we would have to be like, PP, no, that's not your food, sweetie. And we bring him back into the kitchen, and oh my God, I just, like, to this day, it just still breaks my heart seeing his little face. He hated that food. And it did smell weird. It did smell different than regular dog. I mean, I don't think dog food smells good, obviously, but, you know, Tucker is such a voracious eater, too. Like, I mean, he eats his food in literally, like, 3 minutes. And I give him more than I give Boo Radley, because Boo Radley doesn't even finish his dinner sometimes. He didn't finish his dinner tonight, because he said, Dad, I'm on a diet. No, he doesn't finish his dinner sometimes. And then when Alex Alex had to go to this, white elephant party tonight for his friend's stepmom, so he went to that, and when he comes home tonight, like, he'll feed Boo Radley will eat the rest of it. He ate like a half of it, so he'll eat the rest of it tonight. Or if I come home from vlogging, I'll like feed Boo Radley the rest of it, and he'll eat it. And but like Boo Radley just sometimes is not that hungry and he won't eat. Plus we feed them treats throughout the day. But I don't know, it's like, you know, I can remember talking to the vet about it, and I must have just had this crushed look on my face, and she's like, Peter, we cannot give him the diuretic, and then I can tell you that PP's not going to make it real long, you know? She was like, or we can give him the diuretic, and it'll extend his life with his heart. She's like, it's easier to treat kidney disease than it is to treat heart disease. But what happened at the end was both of them were like, you know, his heart and his kidney were both failing at the same time, and it just was like, his poor body was just breaking down, you know? Poor guy. Pee-Pee was a real champ. He really was, you know, and Tucker is too, like, for as many times as we have to take him to the vet and stuff. Because I told Alex, I said, if this hot spot doesn't go away within a couple of days, like, I'm going to schedule another appointment. Like, I'm going to see if I can get him in on Friday. I mean, I feel like we're taking him to the vet, like, every 2 weeks. He doesn't seem to mind, though, really. He's very... It stopped. What I was going to say is, I've actually been thinking about doing this lately, where making homemade dog food for your dogs. A couple of my friends already do it, and I was just going to look online and see if I could find some, like, naturopathic recipe for dog food that was good for heart disease. But I don't know that Tucker would eat it if we changed his food, because the part of the problem is, like, Tucker and Boo, they do not eat human food. Like, they are so trained, because Alex was so insistent on not training, like, our dogs. Now, Pee-Pee, he would eat human food. I remember at the very end, Pee-Pee wouldn't eat anything at all, and I was so upset. And I was just, like, sobbing. And I was, like, sitting on the edge of the bed, like, trying to get him to eat. And Alex was like, babe, if he's not hungry, you know. And he would, like, you could tell he was hungry because he hadn't eaten in, like, 2 days. And I, like, you know, we put the plate in front of him, and he would, like, smell it, and then he would just, like, turn his head like this. He didn't want to eat at all. And I, like, lost it. I lost it. And I said, I'm going to McDonald's, and I'm going to get him a cheeseburger, and all this kind of stuff. And so I went to McDonald's, and I got him a cheeseburger and french fries. I don't even know what I was thinking. And I came home, and I, like, cut this cheeseburger up into little pieces with the cheese on it. I mean, if there were french fries in the house and Pee-Pee smelled them, like, you'd give him a little french fry, and he would devour it. I mean, he loved human food, but Alex, like, forbid it, so he never really got human food, you know? But sometimes I'd sneak him some. But anyway, like, I knew he loved french fries, and so, like, I chopped this cheeseburger up into little bitty bites. I even chopped up, like, the bun and put it on there, too, because it had, like, stuff on it, you know? And then I took the fries and I, like, broke them up a little bit, and I took the plate upstairs to the bed, and he wouldn't eat it, like, at all. Like, he looked at it like that, and I remember he looked up at me, like, his little eyes were like, Dad, I want it so bad, but I'm not hungry. And he just, like, looked away. He was like, and at that moment, like, I knew, like, things were bad. I was like, and I took him downstairs. I took the food downstairs. And then so I had this bag full of french fries, and Tucker and Boo were sitting down there. And I just started, like, I was eating these fries, and I started chucking them to Boo and Tucker. And I was like, here, have them. Like, And Boo Radley carried this stringy, wet french fry out, and this was, like, one of the hardest things ever, because Tucker was, like, eating the french fries. Boo Radley didn't know what to do with it. I mean, I didn't give him a lot of french fries, but I probably gave him each, like, 3 or 4, right? But Boo Radley had this long french fry, and it was real soggy because he had been licking it, and he didn't know what to do with it. And he got on the bed, and I remember he went over to Pee-Pee, and he, like, laid down. They knew, like, don't ever tell me dogs don't have souls and dogs don't have personalities, because those dogs knew something was going on with him. And, like, sometimes I think Boo Radley can't tell that Tucker's sick, but then, like, other times, like, with the hotspot thing, like, Tucker was, like, laying there, and Boo Radley wanted to start licking his back, you could tell. And Boo Radley got on that bed, and Pee-Pee, we had, you know, Pee-Pee on the comforter, this little patchwork quilt that he loved, and we had all of his little toys around him. Otis the dog and his little lady and stuff, and Boo Radley went up there and he laid down on his paws, and he, like, pushed the french fry over to Pee-Pee with his nose. It was so sweet. And Tucker didn't really leave Pee-Pee's side, like, at all through all of that. I still miss that dog so much, like, every day. you know, this is the thing that sucks about life, is that you have to go through these things to learn lessons, right? But by the time that you really learn them, like, it's too late with some things, right? Like, all the lessons I've learned about, like, my relationship with my mom, well, I had to lose her to learn, you know, and then I tried to apply some of that to my aunt, but then she was gone, you know, and it's like, now, you know, it's like I was thinking about Christmas presents the other day, and my mother-in-law and stuff, and I just, like, heard my mom in my head be like, just do it, you know, just make her Christmas for her. And but it's like, we, you know, like with Tucker and Boo, like every night when I get into bed, like I hold Tucker so hard, and I spend probably like 5 minutes with each dog, 5 or 10 minutes, just like petting them and telling them what good boys they are and holding them. And like, I spend so much time with them all through the day, and like, I've learned that by having gone through what I went through with PP, you know, that like, I let them like walk around the yard as long as they want to, and I always call Boo Radley, I say he's an adventurer, because he likes to like run down to our neighbor Laura's mailbox and smell all around there, and he likes to go across the street and stuff. So I stand, like, if I take them out front late at night, because there's nobody on our streets, I'll stand in the street so I can, you know, they're so funny. And out back, Boo Radley runs around that backyard like he owns that place. He's like, boop, 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 running and hopping everywhere. It's hilarious. Oh, man. So good. When we went Black Friday shopping, you know, like Alex has been, he still has such a hard time even talking about PP, and, you know, the jury's still out on whether or not he wants to get another dog, because he's like, I just don't think it's worth the pain that you go through in losing a pet. And I'm like, Alex, like, you don't think it's worth the 12 or 14 years that you get to have? I mean, PP was almost 14 years old. That's a lot of good times in 14 years, you know? And it's just like been so heartbreaking for him. And when we were in Edinburgh shopping on Black Friday, there were these people that were walking their dog, and like, they were shopping with their dog, and I go, oh, look, they're shopping with their dog. And Alex said, because he has said, like, if we ever get another dog, we're taking that dog everywhere. It's traveling with us and everything, right? So Alex said, but he usually says, if we get another dog. He said, when we get another dog, we could bring it down here shopping. And I said, when? And he was like, yeah, when? But Tucker's doing good today. Boo Radley's doing good. Boo Radley's been real attention seeking now. Like, when I sit at my our dining room table, which is like where I upload videos and stuff, he's been like coming in like just putting his paws up on my leg, and he's like, well, on this side, and he's like, I'm like, what is it, little guy? You've been outside 15 times, and you've had treats, and I've held you, and, you know, like, he's so funny, though. The battery's dying. I'm gonna pull in here and change the battery. Well, that battery didn't last long. It lasted less than 40 minutes. Silly, silly battery. Okay, let me change this battery really quick. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I was just thinking about, like, I had wanted to get a fountain pop earlier, and I also had thought about maybe going to the casino tonight. I thought it'd be kind of fun, right? You know how I always talk about how I don't like have a lot of friends, and I'm totally fine with that. Like, I don't need a lot of friends, you know, and then I keep my circle small. Here's one of the problems with keeping your circle small. Are you ready? So I called Tanya, And I texted Tanya, I said, Fountain Pop? And she's like, no, I'm good, babe, or something like that. And so she was just like in for the night. So she didn't want to get a Fountain Pop. And then I called my friend Valerie, and she wasn't feeling great today. So she didn't want to go to the casino or do anything tonight. And so, which is fine, you know, it's whatever. And then like, my other friend is like at home with her husband, because he hasn't been home for like a week, so she wanted to spend the night with him. And then my other friend has like a 10-year-old son, so it's like doing homework and getting ready for bed and stuff like that, you know. And and Melissa and Jason, Melissa had a thing tonight for one of her dog rescues. So I was like, there you are. I could have gone to the White Elephant party with Alex, but it's like, it's his friend's stepmom, and it's his friend that I know, but I don't know her like super well. And it was just like this group of girls that he's like, and I just was like, you go and have a good time. Like, I don't need to go to that. That's where like my social anxiety, like that I talked about in my video, really keeps me. I mean, people I don't think really understand it. They're like, you don't go do these things with Alex. It's like, no, for me to pull myself together to go to a party where I literally know nobody but one girlfriend of Alex's that I really don't know that well, and it's a family friend deal that they're playing a White Elephant game because they're that close. Like, no, please don't put me in that situation. That sounds like absolute hell to me. But what's interesting about it is like some of the small things that I've worked myself up to. Sullivan's nursery looks so pretty for they have all the Christmas, I don't know if you can see this, but they have all the Christmas trees lit up in there and stuff. But anyway, like some of the things that I used to like never be able to do, like I enjoy now. Like I enjoy going to eat by myself, which is so funny that I like doing that. But I do, like I like going to eat by myself. Like I went to Roost Cafe. I might go to Roost Cafe tomorrow. But I went to Roost Cafe and by myself. There's some places I would probably go by myself, like Patachute is probably not a place I would, because it's always so busy and I know everybody in there, and then they'd be like, where's Alex? Where's Alex? She came by herself, you know, all that kind of stuff. But like places that I don't really know the people that work there, like I have no problem going in and eating by myself. But that was something that I had to kind of like work up to, you know? I don't know. I wanted to talk about a comment, and I wanted to remember who it was that said it, and I don't remember who it was. I'm sorry. I probably should pull in here. Yeah, let me pull in here and actually read the comment to you guys so that it'll make sense, because I thought it was a good question. It was about grieving the lost time from when I was using, because I was talking so much. The next month will probably be a lot of videos about recovery and addiction, because it's just in my head a lot right now. So let me look at some. What is this car doing? Seriously, I literally just pulled into this empty parking lot, and this people are like pulling it, and she's like staring a hole through me. Well, why are you pulling in behind me in an empty parking lot? That's scary. Okay. I think they got their McDonald's and they're over here eating. Let me read a couple of the comments, and then I will read the comment and talk about it that I was talking to you guys about. Okay, so... Oh, Dave said, you reading comments isn't content. We could do that on our own. Well, I'm going to read comments, so... But thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Maricela said, Peter, Daydream Believer was sung by the Monkees, but mostly by Davy Jones. It's funny how we think when we're young, we pull a fast one over our parents, and as adults, we confess whatever, and they already knew. Tina said, live vlog. Jacqueline said, yes to a 3-hour vlog, please. Elizabeth said, all blue hearts. Megan said, Peter, I died over your selfie imitation. Sue said, thank you for your social anxiety vlog. I'm 52 and have suffered from social anxiety since my teens. People who know me would never guess that I have it or how exhausting this type of anxiety is to live with. It's hard. People don't believe it. This one I thought was funny. Issa Cho said, for as much time as Peter spends in his car, I think it's adorable he doesn't know all the buttons in his car. When I get a new car, I'm there all day long pushing stuff. I don't know. The one thing I want to know how to do is, and I don't know, that's not what I wanted. See, I start pushing stuff and then it's the wrong thing. I want to know how to, I don't know what I'm doing. Screen setup, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, press OK for miles per hour. That's what I want. Oh, no. But see, I wanted it to say it in the middle. Okay. I need to get out the booklet and look. Okay, let me just read the comment. I mean, I don't want to upset Dave too much with reading the comments on here. I thought people liked it when I read comments on here because, first of all, I think it's interesting who can say what is and what isn't content, you know? I mean, there's a million YouTube channels on YouTube that are creating content. I don't even like the word content. I think it's phony, quite frankly. I'm just filming a video. And if in the video I thought people liked me reading the comments. It's not like I spent an entire hour doing it because I thought, I don't know. Anyway. I like reading the comments sometimes. Sorry, Dave. Let me, where is the comment that I got that I wanted to talk about? Shoot, where is it? Here it is. Okay, so this is from Sarah. And Sarah said, if you don't mind me asking, do you ever grieve that time you weren't here because you were in active addiction? I'm kind of going through that right now. I find myself angry and deeply sad with myself for numbing and that I experienced certain things I felt I needed to numb out from. Okay, so there are a few things. I think it's a fantastic question. Basically asking, you know, like, I was like, what is open over here? And it's Domino's Pizza. Basically asking, did you ever grieve or get upset with yourself for the times that you missed out on because you were in a blackout, or the things that you missed going to or participating in life, like weddings, like funerals, like just hanging out with certain friends or not being around those friends anymore because of your use? And I actually think it's a fantastic question. I do not today. That would be my answer. I do not today. Because in recovery, we are not a program of blame or shame or guilt. Those are three emotions that I feel like absolutely have that they don't do anything for us. Guilt, blame, and shame do absolutely nothing for us. They don't help us in any way. They don't help us to grow in any kind of way. They are just worthless emotions and feelings. So for me to feel guilty or whatever about those days, what I can do is I can do the opposite of that. I can practice the opposite of that and say, I'm really grateful I'm here today, and that I'm not missing out on any more time. And that what I went through and the time that I did miss out on, I had to miss out on so that I could have the time that I have today. Does that make sense? Because had I not gone through that, had I not lived through that hell and really missed out on good times of my life, and, you know, blacked out and allowed myself to put myself into situations and on and on and on at the expense of numbing, like she said in there, at the expense of numbing or exaggerating my life, if I hadn't done all that, I wouldn't have the life that I have today. And I have the life that I have today as a result of what I went through. You know, it was interesting. I don't know if I've talked about this on here. I probably have. But it was interesting because I'm like still trying to figure this out, why it won't do what I want it to do, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, you know, I talked about this on this Q&A that I did on my drama channel, where somebody asked me, I may have talked about it over here, but where somebody asked me, if you relapsed, would you be honest with your audience about it? And like, I read the question, and honestly, like when I read the question at first, I was kind of like, psh, like what? Like that's a silly question. But it's really not a silly question, like from the perspective of somebody that's not an addict, or maybe, I don't know, if they're in early recovery or whatever. Like the thing that's so interesting to me about that, and Tanya and I had a long conversation about this the other night, because I said, what do you think about? And her immediate response was kind of like mine. And the thing is that the alcoholic, and I talked about this in my Peterisms video today, so this is a little bit of a repeat, but the alcoholic and the addict that I am, my experience I was such a low bottom alcoholic and addict, which meant it took me to really dark places. That if I started using again, I truly believe that my life would fall apart so quickly. Well, first of all, I just bit my mouth. I believe that it would be a conscious decision. So I would have to really be going through something in my life to where I had excluded all of my friends, stopped going to meetings. I would have to. It doesn't just, a relapse happens over a long period of time. I'm not a big believer in slips. There's this idea of a slip. Most people believe in slips. I'll just say that. I'm not a big believer in them, because it's a slip is you're at a party and everybody's sitting around a bonfire and they're passing a joint and you happen to just take it and hit it and pass it. It's oh, what did I just do? That's a slip, right? Or you're just sitting there talking to people at a party and you just by accident pick up a beer. Not unknowingly, but you look at this beer and you go, oh, beer, and you take a sip of it, and that's a slip, right? It's moment. Or let's say you do drink a beer and then you get right back on it. They call that a slip. Well, what got you to sit around that bonfire to begin with? What got you to that party where you're sitting there holding a beer in your hand? To me, I feel like the relapse happens long before, and relapse is actually a treatment word. It's not a recovery word. But relapse, I believe it happens long before you ever pick up, right? It happens you stop going to meetings if you're in recovery, and you stop calling your sponsor, and you've already kind of started romancing using, and what that would be like, and you kind of are ready for that, and yada yada yada, so all of that, I think a relapse happens long before that. So it would be well, what is going on with me? I'm in my head having a conversation. I think a lot of I think it's important for people to know too that me being this, I've always been pretty much this open about my recovery. Even in the 4 years that I wasn't going to meetings, when I was out talking to people, out at bars and stuff, I'd say, I'm sober, I'm in recovery. Even though I was doing absolutely nothing about it. And that might have been the one and single soul thing that saved my butt, in all honesty, was the fact that I continued to tell people that I was sober and I didn't drink. My friends that have gone back out, that's typically the first thing that goes, is that they start hanging out with people and not telling them that they're sober. When the people around me don't know that I'm a sober person, that's very dangerous, because that means I can get away with stuff and they're not going to call me on it, right? And it's not their job to hold me accountable for that. But I think, people are always thank you so much for sharing your story. And I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. I made a conscious decision when I got online that I was going to share my story openly, because this is a huge part of who I am. My being an alcoholic and an addict in recovery is a huge part of who I am. It's probably 80% of who I am, and affecting all areas of my life. And so I was I'm going to talk about this openly. I'm going to talk about this from a point of view of my experience. And it's just my experience. Other people have different experiences. And I think, hey, take in all kinds of experiences and listen to them, right? Mine's just one. And I'm not a representative of any 12-step program. It's just my experience. And, but I do have to say this, that I think by sharing so openly on YouTube and talking about it, that is in itself a form of accountability that helps keep me sober, It's not like I've ever gotten to that point, but I do think that would be one of the things that I would think about if I was consciously, planning to go back out. If I really was, starting to think about it, I think I would think, the hell, everybody on YouTube that watches you and the vloggerinos, and they all know you as sober, what are you going to say? What are you going to do? Because I can tell you right now, I think, in the early days of my sobriety, when I really did consciously think about going back out there, I thought about going back out there and being gone. It wasn't about how am I going to get away with this so people don't know I'm using again. That ship had sailed, okay? I had gone through 5 treatments. I had tried to quit so many times on my own. That time had sailed. If I was going to go back out, it was going to be like Nicolas Cage and Leaving Las Vegas. It was going to be ugly, okay? And I wasn't going to bring anybody down with me either. There was nobody going down with this ship besides me, right? A lot of ship analogies tonight. It was going to just be me, and I was going to go and leave. That was my plan, right? Like, even 6 months sober, when I was thinking about this, you know, I was like, if I go back out, I'm not going to, like, make the people in my life that care about me have to deal with this. And that's the thing, like, that I thought was interesting about that question, but I think it's such a great question that at first I thought was silly. Not about grieving the loss. That is actually like a really good question. I don't grieve because of, I've just learned that guilt, shame, and remorse I think remorse about certain things is important, and I think that we need to take a look at the things that we've done from our past, but like as far as like remorse over missing time that I gave to addiction, I need to turn that around and turn that into gratitude today. You know, I think it's important to be remorseful of our actions while we were in active addiction, because I think that's how we make amends, and I think that part is important. But for me to continue, like if I'm actually working steps and I'm, you know, doing inventory and I'm making amends on those actions and I'm trying to right my wrongs, then for me to relive that over and over and over again, and that, maybe that would be my question, you know, have you inventoried it? Have you worked through it with somebody, whether in a program or with a counselor or something? Because that's what I would recommend probably, you know, that's worked for me. Because for me just to relive that over and over and over again is, I'm just looking for excuses to feel like a piece of crap. I'm just looking for reasons to validate why I'm a piece of crap. And I can go there pretty quickly anyway. I don't need a whole lot of reasons, you know? But the reason why I thought the other question was really interesting about, would you be honest with your audience about your relapses? Because that wouldn't even be a consideration, like I said. Like, if I go back out and I relapse, I mean, you won't see me on YouTube. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I won't be on YouTube. I won't be on any of my 5 channels. You know, I hope I don't get drunk in the middle of the night and think it's cute to do some kind of like video saying goodbye to everybody. Because I don't know, you know, like I've been sober for, 26 years and 11 months. I mean, a lot has changed. We didn't have cameras, YouTube, or even cell phones back in the day. Somebody commented on my video the other day, my vlog, and they said, thank God we didn't have cell phones. I think I mentioned this when I read the comments yesterday. They said, thank God we didn't have cell phones. But I mean, thank God, or she said when she was in high school, because of her later teenage behavior or years or whatever. It's like, amen, you know? I don't need anybody recording me and being drunk and that kind of stuff. I don't need to be able to text people, that kind of stuff. Because I did get real drunk and want to have phone conversations at like 2 o'clock in the morning with people and like, hey, I need to tell you some truths about yourself, okay? That I don't think you're willing. You know, I was that person. I really was. So, yeah, I have no desire to go back to that. And also, as sad as I have been to lose people that, not to death, but just my friends that have gone back out, that are steeped in very active addiction. I mean, when I hear the stories, it breaks my heart of the things that they are using and what they are putting their families and their friends through, and themselves, most of all, you know, and their lives have just fallen apart within 3 to 6 months, you know, several people that I know. And I think about that, and as sad as it makes me, it is also evidence to why I do not need to ever think about going back out there. And, you know, and it's sad that I look at that and I see that, but it's like, I can't go back to that. Because I won't have anything, you know? Like, one of the things, okay, so I haven't talked a lot about this, but one of the things in our relationship that when Alex and I got married, so it was important for me that there was sobriety mentioned in our wedding. And so my cousin Caroline read from the 3rd step prayer to represent my mom. And the 3rd step prayer is part of 12-step program. And one of the things that I made Alex promise me when we got married, just between us, but before that, was that if I ever picked up, that if he needed to help me get treatment or he needed to help me do that, that was fine. But if I picked up, he needed to go. That he could not stay and enable that. Because I said, I will turn into something that is so ugly and nasty I can't even, and he has no idea what that's like, you know. My dad and my stepmom would be outdone completely. I can't believe, like, I talked to my dad today on the phone for a long time, and I can't believe I still am able to have that relationship, you know. Like, it's baffling to me sometimes that I didn't permanently destroy every relationship in my life, you know. And I know that there are addicts and alcoholics online that have social media presences that relapse, and then they, you know, like, are back online, and I don't know for their story. My story is different than that, you know. Now, if I relapsed and like I got right back in, like if I don't know, went out for a night or a weekend or whatever, and I came right back in, I just can't even imagine after as long as I've been sober if I did. You want to talk about shame, okay? Because there is shame and blame in early sobriety, but we learn to get over that, right? Like, I just think that, like, if I did, first of all, I can tell you that my priority wouldn't be to get back on YouTube right away. My priority would be to fix my damn life, you know? My priority would be not to tell the world that I was okay and sober again. It's like, okay, reality check. Like, hey, YouTube's great and everything, but you need to fix your life, okay? Because you almost died. That's probably what I hope I would be thinking if I did come back in, you know? I've had so many friends of mine that have gone in and out of treatment. They are so resistant when they're in there that, like, they don't want to hear any of that kind of stuff anyway, you know? But I hope that's where I would be at. And then eventually, yeah, after I had 3 months or 6 months or whatever, get back on YouTube. And I hope that I would be honest with you guys. I don't know. Like, I have no idea. All I know is I got today. That's all I know, is I got a daily reprieve, and I'm not drinking or drugging today. That's all I know. I don't know what would happen. Hell, who knows? I might put the most buffoonery video out there in the entire world that goes viral of me just being a complete drunk mess or something. Who knows? I don't have any idea what I would be like if I did, you know? And I think that scares me the most, is I don't know the direction that my life would take if I picked up again. You know, do I hope that I would come back and let people know, like, what I had gone through? I hope that I would be that person. But, you know, I've said to quite a few friends of mine that I don't know if I went back out that I would come back in again. You know, it took me 4 years, and I wasn't even using, to overcome the fear to come back into the rooms of recovery. I don't know if I picked up and used again. I mean, this is the thing. Y'all are assuming that you know me, right? But you don't know me using. You don't. And I don't even remember who that person really was anymore, you know? Like, I mean, it's been 27 years. I can see images in my head, and I have, like, you know, visions of self-centeredness and selfishness and deliberately taking and hurting people. Like, not physically hurting people, but that, screaming, yelling, you know, all of that, you know, not caring about people, and on and on and on. And, you know, we're taught that the root of our addiction is selfishness and self-centeredness. And if you can think about the most selfish person in the world, then you know an addict or an alcoholic, okay? And that's who I was. And when you're really that selfish and that self-centered, you don't care about anybody else, you know? You don't care about how you're affecting anybody or whatever. I don't know. The unknown is what scares me the most, you know? I was talking to this friend of mine the other night at the meeting, and he's been sober for, God, probably like 45 years. He's been sober forever, and I love this man. He has been such a mentor to me. We were talking about gratitude, and I was talking about the Turpin family video and stuff like that, and he goes, you know, he's like, I've had to think a lot about that through the years, because he's a guy that really believes in, you know, gratitude. And he's like, you know, Peter, I've had to think a lot about that through the years. You know, when I'm sitting there and I feel bad because I'm like, oh, you're feeling sorry for yourself and you're in self-pity. And yet, you know, there are kids that are dying today and people that don't have food and whatever. And he goes, and I don't know why that is. He goes, I don't know why I was given another chance, and yet there are people that are starving. And he goes, and I don't know why there are kids that are dying, and I'm not. He goes, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. You know, he goes, but I know that the God that I believe in, and he doesn't believe in a Christian God. He believes in like kind of more of a, you know, an overwhelming force kind of thing. He said, you know, like, I know that the God that I believe in has some kind of plan, and I don't need to know that. I do not need to know that. But what I do know is that every day that I get up and I do what I'm supposed to do, and I don't pick up for just today, and I have just picked up, and he said something like, you know, I have just, he knew how many days he had, stuff like that. He's like, I have just not picked up every single day for the last whatever. And he said, I've had a daily reprieve from drinking, you know, and that's it. And if you do that, then you have a chance. Because, like, this is what I was going to say earlier. I've been thrown a lot of cards since I got sober. Like, you don't get sober and your life becomes perfect. That's not the deal, right? It's a design for living. You know, we're taught tools and skills to get through stuff. And part of it is living out loud. You know, going to a damn meeting and sharing about some stuff and saying, you know, not just nodding your head and yeah, I'm not just, I've done that. That's a waste of time. You know, just nodding. Oh, yes, great. And then saying what you think everybody else wants you to hear, waste of time. It's about going and sharing and telling on yourself, which means telling where you're at and living out loud and saying, I'm not doing very good right now, and I'm struggling, and this is happening, or that's happening. Hell, when my husband and I were going through marriage counseling at the beginning, and I thought we were going to get divorced, I can tell you the first people that knew about it were my friends in recovery, because when I went to a meeting, and they said, does anybody have a topic? I said, I have a topic. Yeah, me. My husband and I were getting ready to get divorced, and I need to talk about relationships and recovery, because I don't know who I am right now. And, you know, and people they walked me through that, you know, the people that I trust. And when my mom was dying, you know, same thing. And that's what I've done. That's what I've been taught to do. And so I don't know. All I can hope is that I never go back out. And because I have like a life beyond my wildest dreams. Why would I want to ever throw that away? It's a really scary thought to me, you know. But I feel pretty safe as long as I mean, like, ultimately, I'm the one that has to make that decision, right? I mean, I'm the one that has to pick it up and put it into my mouth and, you know, consume whatever substance it is. I'm the one that has to make that final choice, right? And I don't believe as addicts and alcoholics we have a lot of willpower, but I do believe we have some willpower before we pick up. I do believe we have some willpower before we pick up to pick up a phone and call somebody, go to a meeting, talk to somebody, just not do it, go to sleep, you know, whatever, go for a run. But I think that we do have some willpower before we pick up, you know. I mean, when, like, when I've known people that, and I trust me, I have a lot of sympathy and empathy for people that go back out and come back in, but when, like, people are like, well, I'm an alcoholic and I just don't have any willpower, you know, and so, because, like, you know, that's part of being an alcoholic is that we're powerless over alcohol and that our lives become unmanageable. But it's like there's this idea that goes along with that I have no willpower when it comes to alcohol, right? And so people will say, well, like, I'm an alcoholic and I really don't have any willpower, and so, you know, like, I just couldn't help but pick it up. I call bullshit on that. I call bullshit on that. I'm sorry. You could have called a friend. You could have called a family member. You could have called a sponsor. You could have gone to a meeting. You could have called a 24-hour hotline. You could have read a book. You could have gone outside for a walk. There's 900 million things you could have done other than pick up. And in that moment, like, if you really didn't feel like you had any willpower, pick up the phone. Like, those are the things that we're taught. This is, like, not brain science. It's real basic shit and, like, real basic stuff. You know, and one of the things that they say is that it's a simple program for complicated people. You know, and that sometimes the intellectuals are the ones that are dying in recovery because they're intellectualizing the hell out of this program. Oh, let me come. I gotta figure. It's stuck. You know, oh, I have to come up with the most amazing God in the entire world. Or let me analyze this step to death, right? And then you got these people in there that are pretty simple, you know, like they just aren't that, they don't complicate things. And it's just not that deep for them. It's like, do you think that there's something out there that's bigger than you? Yep. Okay, let's go on to the next step. You know, I mean, it's just really not that, it really is not that deep, you know? Write down your resentments. Okay, these are the people and the things that I'm resentful for. Why are you resentful for it? Because of this. Well, how has it affected your life? Well, it's affected my ego, it's affected my pride, it's affected my pocketbook, it's affected my relationships. And what's your part in that? Well, let me see. Well, you know, I did do this to, you know, Sally Joe, and that's probably why, you know, okay, and, oh, so that's my part in it. So what can I do to do that? Well, I can make amends to Sally Joe, and then I can right that wrong, and I can fix it. It's not that deep, okay? And so for me, I got to remember that. I got to stay in that simplicity of it, you know? Because if I don't, and I start complicating things, and I start making them real difficult, I mean, that's how I was my first 2 years sober. I honestly don't even know how I'm still here, because I wanted to complicate everything my first 2 years sober, you know? Why? I asked my sponsors, you know, why, all the time, you know? I remember, and trying to figure out, like, to get past, because the second step says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And the third step says, made a decision to turn our life and our will over to the care of God as we understood him. And, I mean, it can't really go on if you can't get steps 2 and 3. And I got so stuck on having to have the perfect God and make God, you know, I had to go on this spiritual journey that I was going to figure out everything. And I was reading, you know, trying to read. My sponsor was like, we need to move on. And I can see him. I can still see him sitting there. And he got so mad. And it says in our basic text, God either is or he isn't. And I was like, I know, but blah, 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 whatever. And I don't know if I'm like a Christian or, you know, I don't know what I believe in. And he goes, And finally he just was like, God either is or he is. And I was like, he is. I didn't even know if God was a her or he or a what. And I was like, he is. Because I was like, okay, I'm ready to move on. And my sponsor looked at me and he goes, do you think that you are the biggest thing in the universe? Like, do you think there could be anything possibly bigger than you out there? And I said, oh, absolutely. And he says, so you could probably be more agnostic, maybe. I said, I guess. I don't even know what that word means, you know? And he goes, well, I'll tell you what. You can identify, he goes, my early sponsors were like this, okay? Can you, if you take a tree down in the woods, can you carry that tree? I'm like, and this is the question I ask, how big is the tree? And he goes, a huge tree. Can you carry no, I can't carry a huge tree, right? Because see, I got to make it more difficult. He goes, but if I give you a saw and you cut up the tree bit by bit, right? Can you carry it piece by piece over here with the help of the saw? And I was like, yeah. He goes, God's your saw. And, you know, and my other sponsor used to say to me, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so I could wrap my head around that God could be a saw, right? Like, I don't love that God is a door. People say, oh, God could be a doorknob. I don't love that, right? But I understood the analogy of what he was getting to right with there, right? Like, I'm not that big. It's like, there are things I don't have control over in this world. Therefore, I'm probably not the ultimate being, if there is one. If there isn't one, then it definitely isn't me, right? So I got to stop playing God. And that's basically what he was saying to me. And then he looked at me with just this absolute, after, you know, he screamed at me with this just absolute gentleness in his heart and in his voice. And he said, you know, he goes, let's come back and let's visit this a year or two down the road. And that's what I did. At 2 years sober is when I started figuring out my spiritual beliefs, you know? And, yeah, and it worked. For me, and it was hard, you know, because I heard a lot of things I didn't like, but I'm here. Life's a weird thing, you know, it really is. Who are Alex and I talking about? We were talking about somebody the other day that's like 3 or 4 years older than me, and they just had a daughter, like an infant daughter. Oh, I know who it is now. And I was like, I can't even imagine having like a kid at 50 years old. Well, I'm 49, but at 50 years old. You know, I'd be like 70 when they were 20. And Alex is like, I know, I can't imagine having kids, period. He's like, but you know, people do it all the time. And I was like, they do. And I was like, here I think like I've got 2 more years left to live on this earth. And there are people having kids, you know. It's like, I think my view of the world is so skewed sometimes because of like my mom dying young. I think I really, like, that really has affected me sometimes. Like, obviously my mom dying has really affected me, and I feel like I've really worked through most of that grief at this point and acceptance. But like her dying young, I think that screwed with my vision of the world and whatever. I mean, of course, I don't look at the fact that my dad is 81 and completely healthy, right? Like, I don't look at that. I look at the fact that my mom lived to be 64. I mean, my dad's almost lived 20 years longer than my mom. I don't ever look at those genetics. You know what I mean? Or that my aunt made it to 73 or 74. I don't look at that. You know, I only look at the fact that my mom died at 64 of some really rare disease. Somebody asked me on here recently, what did my mom die from? I do not like to say the name of it because I'll tell you why. And actually, I just was asking, who was I talking to about this? Oh shit, I can't even remember. A friend of ours that was a doctor asked me, or was it my dad? Well, I'll say what the name was, but they don't call it this anymore. My mom had what was called Wegener's vasculitis granulomatosis, and they don't call it that anymore. Well, they call it vasculitis granulomatosis, but they don't call it the Wegener's anymore because that was named after a doctor who I believe had ties to, how can I say this on YouTube? Bad Germans. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, so they don't call it that anymore. They call it something else. But I was talking to my dad. Who was it that I was talking to? And it's called something like real short now. Like, they're like, oh, they call that this now. It's an autoimmune disease. And not a lot of people get it. But it also does not have to be fatal if they catch it early enough. They did not catch it early enough with my mom. They thought it was dehydration. They actually thought it was kidney failure. With her, well, her death certificate says kidney failure because that's the area that it affected. And usually it goes in and it just affects one area and they can go in there and fix that. What was really weird about it with my mom was that she had been sick and she had like the flu, and then it just kept on going and she just didn't get better. And that's usually how it happens. And she didn't really know why she wasn't feeling better, but then it was weird because like she was so weak. The weakness was because she wasn't eating or drinking. I didn't know that at the time. We didn't know, my aunt and I didn't know that at the time. But she almost couldn't even walk up and down the stairs. So there were like some times that I had to like carry her up the stairs and stuff like that. My mom was very petite. And then at the end, before she went in the hospital last time when she was discharged, because she was discharged from the hospital twice, I think, and came home. And then went the final time, and that was the last time that she didn't come out, the last time. But the times before that, they released her on dehydration. It was twice, wasn't it? I'm like, was it twice, or did I just take her for the outpatient procedure thing? I'm like, it was twice. God, it's been so long. I don't know. It seems like it's weird to me, like, the older I get, it's like the things I can't remember as specifically as I could when I was younger. Anyway, but I can remember, like, her whole refrigerator was filled with, like, cottage cheese, Jell-O, all kinds of different juice boxes and juices and waters and whatever, and literally would take her all this stuff up there and soup and everything, you know, and she would, like, drink, like, a little bit of water, like, out of a straw, just a little bit, and then she'd be like, I can't drink anymore, and she just wouldn't, you know, she just couldn't. And so it attacked her kidneys and she got a kidney failure. But my dad really encouraged me to get an autopsy because he was like, your mom would want that if that would help other people. And which I was like, either way about, I didn't really know. So we did get an autopsy. The other thing my dad said was that if they had not caught it, like if it was just one specific area, And I don't really understand what he meant, but like if it was only one specific area of her body by the time that she died that had been basically, I guess, filled with this autoimmune disease, then, or affected by it, then that would basically say the hospital like didn't do everything proactively that they could have done. But if her body had been ridden with it, then basically at that point there was nothing that you could do. Well, when they did the autopsy, my mother's entire body was ridden with it. There was nothing that they could have done. So the hospital was not responsible in any way by the end of it. So, but yeah, I remember the doctor looking at us, my aunt and I, and he was like, your mom, because she'd been on dialysis for so long at that point, and like on a breathing tube, and she'd been in a coma and stuff, and he said, your mom will be in a assisted living program for the rest of her life. She will never walk again. She probably will never talk again or see again. She'll have to be fed and things like this. And I'll never forget, my aunt looked at me. I mean, she just was sobbing, and she had 7 doctors, and these doctors were not meeting regularly. And so my aunt finally called and said, I want a meeting with all of the doctors. And so all the doctors, like, we met in this boardroom, and they were all sitting there, and they looked, my aunt had these, I'll never forget this, she had this black suit on, very Chanel looking kind of suit, you know, and she had these huge black sunglasses on, and she just sobbing. I can remember looking, we were sitting side by side at the end of the table, and I can remember looking over at her, and just like a tear was like running down her cheek, and she took those sunglasses, and they're like, okay, we hear that you have some questions, and my aunt took those sunglasses off, and she threw them across the table, this one doctor, and she said, my sister is dying in there, and none of you can tell me what is going on. And she started tapping her finger on the table, and she said, you better tell me what is going on right now. Oh my God, those doctors started singing like nobody's business. And so when they told us that, my aunt looked at me, and she just was sobbing, and she said, Peter, please don't, you know, like this. She was like, your mother would never want this, your mother would never want this. She was like so upset about it. It was just like, oh my God. It was hard. My aunt stood beside me through everything with my mom being sick. I mean, she was there every single day in the hospital. She was at my mom's house every single day. She set up the routine of people to come over and help nurse care my mother back when she, like, the weeks that she was home. And she had a routine of people coming to visit at the hospital. And she had the whole thing, like, all spreadsheeted out. And, I think that's why when my mom finally passed away, like, my aunt, like, didn't know what to do or how to handle it. I remember her sitting in there, you know, in the hospital room at the very end, and she was just, like, screaming and sobbing, and she was like, where's she going next? And I know that the nurse didn't know what to say, and she just kind of looked at her, and she said, well, we're going to take her downstairs. Well, what's downstairs? And she was like, and my uncle was like, Kathy, come on, let's go. You know, I can't remember what the nurse said. She said, like, the mortuary or whatever. Not the mortuary, but the whatever, you know. Morgue or whatever. But she was just like, what's downstairs? What's downstairs? And she was like freaking out. She's like, I have to be with her. She can't be alone. She's never alone. I can't be alone. She can't be alone. I have to be with her. I have to stay with her overnight. And my uncle was like, Kathy, let's go. Let's let Peter have a moment by himself. And then I remember just sitting there with my mom, you know. God, it still seems so weird, you know. It just still seems so weird. I don't, like, think anymore, like, you know, I've had this tape of Caroline's wedding that has my mom speaking on it, and I'm like, there's some resistance here. I don't know what it is. That, like, I'm always like, oh, I don't have a VCR set up or whatever. But there's some resistance to me, like, hearing it. I don't know what it is. I haven't heard my mom's voice since the day that she died. And, like I said, I feel like I've worked through my grief and stuff about it, but I still think of that moment. You know, it's like, I don't know, but I will tell you the weird thing was I felt like something left that room. I really did. With my mom. But I also I think, and maybe this is because of movies and stuff, I thought there would be some grand trumpets blaring kind of moment, you know, that I was just like, and it wasn't. It just was one moment she was there and the next moment she was gone. It was that. And what I really realized in that moment was, and I've said this a million times, but it's truly what I learned in that moment, you know, it's like, we're born, we live, we die, and what we put in the middle of it is ours, you know, and we better put something in the middle of it so that our lives speak to that. And it's like from Charlotte's Web, you know, it's the cycle of life. You know, it's interesting because my husband and I were talking about death the other day, because we've lost so many people recently. He has too. And, you know, some people that we knew better than others and whatever, but, you know, my husband's not afraid to die, which is interesting to me because he's also an atheist. And I'm like, you don't have any fear of dying? He was like, no. And I'm like, and so we were having this conversation about, we had it on Black Friday, but then we also had it when we were going down there shopping. But we also had it on the way back from his mom's house the other night. And I was like, you don't have any fear of dying whatsoever? He was like, no, I don't. I never have. I was like, I know, but you don't, like, this is the end for you. And he was like, yeah. He's like, that's why I live my life to my fullest now, because when I'm gone, it's over forever, you know? I mean, Alex and I, it was interesting because we used to have these conversations about, like, well, you know, like, if there is no learning experience at the end or judgment or whatever, then what's the point in being a good person, you know? Because I would say, well, if you're an atheist, you know, then you can just be this crap person, right? Because there's nothing to be accountable to. And Alex is like, except you have to be accountable to yourself. Like, you know, you're accountable to yourself because you want to be the best version of yourself that you can be. So it's not about some higher power. We've had, like, people are always like, how are you? Because I try to kind of, like, dumb it down a little bit in my videos because I don't want to, like, offend people that, because before I was more of a spiritual person, like, I couldn't stand people talking to me about spirituality or religion. So I try to kind of, like, you know, play it down a little bit, or not play it down, but, like, just not talk about it that specifically that much, because I know that there are people that don't want to hear it. But people are always like, how is Alex an atheist and you are as spiritual as you are? Because I mean, like, I'm a pretty spiritual person. I mean, I talk about God moments and stuff all the time. And they're like, how does that work? And it doesn't cause a problem. It has literally never been a problem. I feel like it's really a point of interest for both of us that, you know, we'll ask each other questions about it, or how does that work for you, and things like that. You know, it's like, it's been a point of intrigue for us when, you know, in our relationship. So it's been, you know, that's been kind of a cool thing to get to know each other. I was like, what are you doing, Mr. Pickup Truck over here? He was like in my rear view mirror and he was like weaving back. I was like, what are you doing? And we both changed a lot in our belief systems, like, not like flipped, but we've changed a lot in our belief systems since we have met and since we have gotten married. So we don't necessarily feel exactly the same way as we did before, but we still have similar things. I would say Alex is more of like an atheist, more towards being agnostic, and I would say I've become more open-minded in some of my feelings towards... I used to be very angry, I think, when I was younger at a lot of religiosities, a lot of religion, and a lot of, like, religious belief systems that have condemned me, or that I wasn't even aware if they did or didn't. You know, I just kind of felt like they did. And I'm not so much like that today. I feel like, you know, I have friends and family of mine that are very religious people and aren't offensive or anything, and they, you know, aren't hiding behind it. and whatever. And I just feel like as long as it's not used to condemn or hurt somebody, hey, do you, you know, and who am I to tell you what to do? And I think those people that do condemn, I think it's I really have thought a lot about this, and I think, you know, it's like, I love the St. Francis prayer as just a prayer, and actually we also say it in recovery, but I love the St. Francis prayer where it says, you know, it's, you know, better to understand than be understood. I love that part in there, you know, to love than be loved. And I think that is one of the keys to life, is understanding instead of being understood, and expecting that from somebody, you know? And I think that's the thing. And, you know, like, I've had so many conversations with friends of mine where it's like, they'll be so angry about something. I'm like, yeah, but, you know, like, I get it, where they're coming from, because they're afraid. They don't understand, you know? So therefore, like, it's easier for them to hide behind this religious belief that tells them, you know, like, oh, it's a sin to be gay, than to actually acknowledge, I wonder what I really feel about that. I wonder what I really think. So they hide behind that. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean that they're not loving people. It means that they're fearful people. And they believe this because this is what they're told, you know? And I'm just using that as an example. It could be, you know, one of 10 million things. I think it's easier sometimes to hide behind religious ideology than it is to form our own concepts, our own belief systems, and stand by those and say, I believe this because I think this is what is right. You know, not this is what I believe because I was told this. And that's the difference to me sometimes. I don't know, for me, and I respect anybody's belief system, is like I said, as long as it's not condemning or hurting somebody, you know. And there are a lot of religions out there that are hurting people. Like, let's just be for real, okay? But I also think the thing is this, that as I've gotten older, it's like, if I want somebody to ask me about what I believe, or respect my opinion to believe what I believe, and not just about religion, but about anything, my philosophies, my belief systems, whatever. If I ask somebody to be open-minded enough to listen to me and actually hear what I have to say, shouldn't I and don't I need to respect the same courtesy? And listen to what they have to say and give them the same courtesy as well? I think so. You know, I really do. I guess it also depends on how people are speaking to one another. You know, like, are you yelling at somebody? Are you being open-minded towards them? Like, you know, like, are you listening to them? Are you, like, cutting them off? Like, you know, because I think that also says a lot about how that's going to be interpreted, you know? I don't know. I have talked about a million things from Sunday, haven't I? What time is it? Oh my Lord, I have vlogged for almost an hour and a half tonight. I can't believe it. Well, I think it's like 7 minutes short of an hour and a half. I'm like at an hour and 23 minutes and 25 seconds. Exactly, on the dot. So anyway, I'm gonna get off here now, you guys, and listen to my audiobook for a little bit. This was fun tonight. Talked about all kinds of stuff. It seems like so weird. Like, back in the day, I used to vlog like every single day, like an hour and a half. Didn't I used to do like an hour and a half to 2 hours every day? I know that like the last couple months I've been doing it just like an hour, and it seems a lot shorter, but didn't I used to do like an hour and a half every day? Anyway, it didn't seem long tonight. It seemed fun. So all those hour and a halves are why I had to get new brakes on my car tonight. Probably. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you same place, same time, maybe. Tomorrow might be 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. Anyway, I love you guys so much. Thanks for listening. And if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. And I hope that you guys are having a magically amazing Thursday. I cannot believe it is already December and the week is already going by so quickly. I hope that you're having a magically amazing Thursday. Happy December. And I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya. Oh, and for those that need to hear it, and those that want to hear it, and for those that just happen to stick around, one more I love you. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya. Oh, and happy birthday, Lena.